White Coats. I'm so excited about Black Men in White Coats. You want to stay tuned? Get us on itrnradio.com, or you can also listen on YouTube. You can also get us on Pandora, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, anywhere that you find your podcast platforms. It's time for a great show. So get comfortable, get ready. We will be starting in just a moment. So come on back, folks, at the top of the hour. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is time for Black Men in White Coats right here on the Intentional Talk Radio Network. And here we go. Black Men in White Coats. Okay, bear with us for a moment, folks. We're getting the sound on here.
There's a large population out here who has never seen a black doctor, especially a black male doctor.
My name is Dr. Dale Okorodudu. I'm the founder of Black Men in White Coats. Today is a Black Men in White Coats Youth Summit. Over 1,800 people registered. We're gonna inspire, mentor. We've got a lot of great stuff lined up for today.
One of the great things about today is that there is a great group of kids who are really energized and excited.
I wanted to come here for me to see other people like me who are successful in being in a field where they can help people.
I wanted him to see positive Black men and positive roles, particularly in the medical community.
There's a large population out here who has never seen a black doctor, especially a black male doctor.
For a long time, we've been connecting students with mentors online. Today's completely different because this is a real event where they get to come and meet each other in person, to get to actually see Black men in white coats.
My son Marcellus, as early as elementary school, talked about he wanted to be a doctor. It's a good feeling to have other young men around to help my boy realize that this is something that can come true.
The best part about it is seeing so many young people of color excited about becoming physicians.
We have workshops, we have clinical skills, hands-on stuff, and for the parents, we have excellent sessions like how to raise a doctor.
Seeing a black man in a white coat is very rare because only 2% of doctors are black men, and there is a high need for black men in the field. If you don't see it, you don't believe it exists.
My goal is to be a cardiologist, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to see how I get to medical school and through college to become a cardiologist.
I've met lots of doctors, so this event was really good for me, so I can be able to learn more about my passion and what I want it to be.
This is for Black girls, Black boys, for everybody. Anybody's welcome. We just say Black men in white coats because we want to put a special emphasis on that, because we know that the number of Black men applying to medical school isn't where it should be. And here's the deal about everything, but about medical school in particular. If you don't have a reason, if you don't know why you want to do it, you're probably going to quit eventually, because it's hard. You have to go back to know your whys, and your whys are what are going to keep you going. Say, oh, I can't quit. I got to keep going. I got to keep going.
It's one thing to have a dream, but it's another thing to have the steps to make it come true. And that's what we're here today to do.
The reason why I came here was to better clarify why I want to be a doctor, not only in terms of my vision, but how to execute that vision as well.
You can get your whole roadmap laid out in one day for what it looks like to become a health professional.
We talk about doing this for the kids, but at the same time, I've already had parents come up to me and say, wow, this has gotten me so pumped. I'm so motivated, and now I'm inspired.
It takes a village to raise a child. When they're getting so many negative signals, it's very important that we help them to make their dreams come true.
This summit is just the beginning. We plan on hitting cities all over America. Reach out to us. We're here for you. We want you to be successful.
You have to put forth the effort, and you have to have the drive and the tenacity to not give up.
If you want help, you seek that help. All of this information, all of these resources, all of these doctors that were here today, it's incredible. It really is.
I am very inspired just by walking around here today. So many people wearing their little white coats saying, I'm going to be a radiologist. I want to be an orthopedic surgeon. I know for a fact that we can get more Black men in white coats because of what I'm seeing here today.
Do you have leg pain?
Outstanding. 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 Okay, I believe we have another.
Black men in white coats because we need to save the lives of more Black men, period.
There were fewer Black men applying to medical school in 2014 than in 1978.
There are several medical schools that do not have any Black men in their classrooms. When that is the case, and we're in a learning environment, there's going to be different conclusions made about how to care for people if there are not diverse people around the table.
You need to care about your fellow man and woman, otherwise we all suffer. So the reason why white people, white women should care about diversifying the physician workforce, which includes Black men, is because it makes it better for all of us.
Historically, the system wasn't designed for Black men to succeed.
My mom, on and off drugs, in and out of jail my whole life, and becoming an orthopedic spine surgeon, if I can do it and come from that environment and everything that I went through, I think you can also.
There are little Black boys out there who see me on TV, who see me in this role, and who may not have ever thought that they could be a doctor, much less Surgeon General, who when they see that, all of a sudden think, I can do that too.
We're approaching this as though it's a problem versus realizing that we have a crisis on our hands.
What's the impact if this problem doesn't change?
Black people are gonna continue dying.
Yeah, ain't no time for stressing. I've been really stepping. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, if you wanna go get it, stop playing around. Really got on racks, ain't playing around. Wanna go get it, stop playing around. Really got on racks, ain't playing around. Black men, white coat, shit, we up right now, yeah, yeah. You gotta set you a goal. You gotta accomplish your goal.
And I believe we have one more.
We're excited today for the 2020 Dallas Black Men in White Coats Youth Summit. We're holding it at the Barack Obama Male Leadership Academy. Over 2,000 people registered for today's event.
I decided to attend today's event because I am interested in the medical field and I wanted to expand my knowledge in medicine.
I'm really just grateful to be here. Coming from San Diego, California, my purpose for being here is that I want to be a pediatrician.
We've got kids as young as 8 years old. We've got high school, college, post-bac, medical students, parents, educators, for one purpose, to inspire these youth to pursue greatness.
I've been able to see kids that are excited about medicine, excited about being more represented in medicine, and it's just a great sense of community.
Today's event is showing young people that everyone has potential.
I came to the event to learn about different aspects of the medical field.
I found it very interesting because it was something that they all enjoyed, and it made me open my eyes and realize that it's something I want to do also.
This is a team effort. We couldn't have done this by ourselves. So many people have actually taken the time to really pour into us so we can inspire these youth.
There are some wonderful presentations going on, and Dr. Dale did a great job of challenging them to think of how to enlarge their vision for their lives.
I learned a lot about cardiology. I remember learning about the 4 chambers of the heart.
I learned a lot actually about how people perform things to save lives. You know, that you can do anything that you want, and you know, you have permission to be great.
We want to call medicine out to its fullest potential, when everybody has a seat at the table and everybody has an opportunity. That's what we're doing here today. We're about creating opportunities, we're about creating a seat at the table.
We need everybody's help. If you're in
Sorry, the internet is buffering, so Colette.
Okay. Do you think it'll stop buffer? Okay, there we go. Okay.
No, it's still buffering, so let's just go ahead and move on. There was only about
Okay,
30
let's
seconds left.
move on because I just heard the students say you have permission to be great. He didn't know that before. Thank you, doctors.
Everyone has.
Okay, will it?
Yeah, go ahead. Colette.
Technology.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Colette.
Technology, I've got a lot to say about technology. It ain't that great. Okay. Okay, let's get started and welcome to the Intentional Talk Radio Network. Welcome to It's Time to Tell the Truth. And the first in a series of 5 Black men in white coats. And thank you for being with us, Leonard Collins.
Yes, let's have the opening prayer. Let us bow our heads. Lord, we come to you in a humble state. We want to praise you for the collaborative efforts that we have with Intentional Talk and Black men in white coats. We ask that you continue to share your wisdom in our hearts, also in our minds. This opportunity for us as African Americans in this state of the United States, we need your leadership, we need your touch, and we ask that you give us continual guidance, and we'll humble ourselves and open up our hearts. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen and amen. As we get started, I noticed this morning on one of the networks here, the insurrection was the topic of the day. And it began with, it's time to tell the truth. And I thought that that was so ironic. It's time to tell the truth. Yes, it is. It is time to tell the truth. And not simply because of the insurrection and those who are responsible and those who will continue to negate that responsibility. It's time for us to tell the truth. It's time for us to take matters into our own hands. And just as the young student said, he's now been given permission to be great. Why didn't he think that the day that he was born, he had permission to be great? He has always had permission to be great. And I have to add, Dr. Noble, Dr. Dotson, soon to be Dr. Edward Robinson, Dr. Dale, and Dr. Daniel, doctor, 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 doctor. Please let these kids know they're great. They are already great. They were great the day they came into this world. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for all that you will continue to do. We are in perilous times, not simply because of the pandemic, but because of where we find ourselves as a community. 2%, only 2% of the doctors in this country are Black. That's incredible. That is simply tragic. Only 2%. Oh, really? That's got to be why I today do not have a Black doctor. That's got to be why. And here I am almost 70 years old and I don't have a Black doctor. Really, people? Really? We've got to change our trajectory. It's not up to them. It's up to us. And thank God we have Black men in white coats. Unfortunately, we don't have as many as we want, but we are here to change the narrative because, as you can see, our narrative has already been planned. They've planned it for us. That is precisely why the student said he now has permission to be great. Oh my God. And we're giving him further permission to be great. He's got permission. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to get this started. Kenny Hendricks will introduce our esteemed panelist. We're going to talk about Black men in white coats, your vision, how you got here, how we can continue your vision, and how we can change the trajectory. And I'm sure those of you that are in Dallas or Houston, you're going to help me get a Black doctor, right? Please, thank you very, very much. We greatly appreciate you being here. And this will be a great, great discussion, conversation, because we must change the trajectory. Thank you. Kenny Hendricks?
Yes, and I'd like to go ahead and introduce the panelists. I'll start with Dr. Daniel Okorodudu. Dr. Okorodudu is a board-certified endocrinologist who practices in Dallas, Texas. Along with his brother, he co-founded Black Men in White Coats and another organization, Diverse Medicine. And these are organizations which focus on exposing, inspiring, and supporting Black youth considering careers in healthcare. He's married to his beautiful bride, Stephanie. They have 2 wonderful children. Outside of medicine, Dr. Daniel loves working out, engaging in church activities, and creating hyper-realistic drawings. Interesting. The next one is Dr. Richard Harris. Dr. Harris is a board-certified internal medicine physician and a pharmacist. Dr. Harris attended the University of Texas at Austin for pharmacy school, then pursued medical education at the McGovern School of Medicine in Houston. He's a lifelong learner and completed his MBA at the University of Houston. Dr. Harris has a client-centric view, focusing on building relationships and trust through a comprehensive lifestyle medicine system combined with genetic and micronutrient testing. He currently runs an online health and wellness practice, is a partner in an education consulting firm, and consults for several companies. In his spare time, he is an avid reader, weightlifter, video game enthusiast, and author. Dr. Harris also enjoys sports, traveling, philanthropy, church, and keto donuts. Okay. Dr. Aaron Douglas Dotson. Dr. Dotson is originally from Inglewood, California. We're a couple of Californians here. Attended the University of Texas at Dallas, where he studied neuroscience while minoring in music with an emphasis in classical piano and composition, and completed medical school at St. Louis University School of Medicine. He is now completing his residency in ophthalmology at the University of Iowa. He hopes to subspecialize in ocular, orbital, and facial plastics and reconstructive surgery, in addition to serving as a comprehensive ophthalmologist. Dr. Dotson is passionate about reading, mentoring service, and seeing the best in others. He's excited to see the growth of Black Men in White Coats and hopes to continue serving within the organization for the rest of his life. Dr. Stephen Noble. Dr. Noble is a board-certified cardiothoracic surgeon, a decorated Navy veteran, entrepreneur, healthcare executive, associate producer, speaker, and best-selling author of the children's book, The Heart of a Hero, the Dr. Daniel Hale Williams story. Passionate about addressing healthcare disparities that face communities of color, Dr. Noble is the founder and executive director of Delano Gaming Initiative. DGI is a nonprofit organization that uses esports as a vehicle to engage youth to pursue science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. His clinical interests include robotic-assisted thoracic surgery, innovation and technology in medicine, holistic preventative care, and addressing health outcome disparities in communities of color. A graduate of Xavier University in Louisiana, Dr. Noble received his medical and surgical training from Indiana University, Oregon Health and Science University, and The Ohio State University. With deep roots and family ties to Portland, Oregon, and the Pacific Northwest, he and his wife are the proud parents of 5 children and 2 grandchildren. We have Edward Robinson. Edward Robinson was born in Germany in a military family and was raised in Italy. He moved to the United States in 2014 and attended Madison Area Technical College in Madison, Wisconsin. During that time, he became the president of the TRIO Student Support Services student body. As president, he spearheaded community initiatives. Mr. Robinson also helped secure funds for the program through fundraiser events. The funds were used to help sponsor students that were unable to afford school supplies. In 2016, he transferred to Tufts University, where he obtained his degree in biology. Now a second-year student at Morehouse School of Medicine, Mr. Robinson has shown dedication to mentorship and health equity. As president and founder of the Black Men in White Coats Morehouse School of Medicine chapter, he was able to establish a collaboration with the Emory School of Medicine, Summer Science Academy, to mentor high school students underrepresented in the STEM field. In addition, with the collaboration of a local pharmacy and Morehouse School of Medicine, Mr. Robinson helped to bring vaccine doses to over 25 residents of an independent living facility in the Atlanta West End. In the future, Mr. Robinson aims to grow the Morehouse School of Medicine Black chapter of Black Men in White Coats by creating a network of medical students, residents, and attending physicians to support mentees. And finally, we have TJ Lofton. During the last 30 years, TJ Lofton has been recognized as a multidimensional global business leader, a celebrity car builder, real estate and land development expert, a preeminent gentrification expert, published author, public speaker, and wealth coach. Since the age of 9, he was under the tutelage of highly esteemed local business leaders in Compton, California, who influenced him on the importance of ownership and of community. With that foundation, his love of cars and automotive technical training, after graduating from Centennial High School, TJ opened his first brick and mortar business. It would be the first of many very successful businesses. His innovations and business acumen allowed him to establish lowriding as a bona fide industry with the international recognition through the entertainment industry via music videos, commercials, and movies, most notably the mega hit Straight Outta Compton. Transitioning from building cars and selling the business, TJ delved into the hot California real estate market as a broker and land developer. He partook in the developing of the newly up-and-coming city of Palmdale, California, a suburb of Los Angeles. It was also there that he first encountered gentrification in the making. This information was key to further developments in the following years. And thank you again to all our guests.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you all of you for being here with us. We're going to get this started. And before we actually get started, I'm looking at so many of you doctors. I don't believe it. I've already told Dr. Noble that I do not believe he has to be only 21. And Dr. Dotson, you about 21 maybe? I don't think so. You guys are shucking and jiving and bamboozling all of us. But I do have to remember, Black don't crack. That's right. Black don't crack. You guys are really something. You guys are really something. So let's get started. I'd like to know from all of you how you got interested in doing what you do. Dr. Dale, how did you and your brother, Dr. Daniel, how did you actually get started with Black Men in White Coats? I did hear some of that during the video, but give us a little more insight to how you actually got started and what you did and what motivated you to do the work that you do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you for hosting this and having me, and not just me, but everybody on this call. These are my brothers in the battle, right? So my real brother is Dr. Daniel, but everybody else here are my brothers in the battle. So Black Men in White Coats started in 2013. I was a resident physician at Duke at the time, and my brother was a fellow at Duke at the time. And there was a report that came out from the Association of American Medical Colleges. And that report basically said the number of Black men applying to med school was decreasing. And it said there were less Black men applying to med school in the year 2011 than there were in 2002. So we saw that report, and I'm like, wow, that doesn't make any sense, right? That should not be the case. After all these decades and decades and decades of pouring millions and millions of dollars into trying to get more diversity into the field of medicine, how in the world are the numbers going down and not up? And here's maybe one of the more important things I want to get across during this session as well. At that time, I didn't have any resources. So I was a resident. I didn't have any money. As my wife and I, we had a baby. I think another baby on the way. So we didn't have any money. We didn't know what to do. But what I said was, we can do something, and that something was simply getting my cell phone, and asking my brother and one of the med students over there to be in a little roundtable discussion with me, just like this, but we did it in person. And we just talked about, why are there so few Black men going into the field of medicine? Long story short, that little video got a little bit of buzz online. One thing led to another. Next thing you know, we got better videos, we got youth summits, documentaries, and none of it was planned. It was just seeing a problem and saying, how can we contribute to a solution?
Great. And that's what's so intriguing and motivating. You saw that there was a problem and you did something about it. You didn't take the position that there's nothing I can do about it. You picked up your phone. We all have cell phones. They can work wonders. They go wherever we go. You can make it happen. There's never, ever a time when, what are you going to do? Never.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
I said, exactly. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So having said all of that, I saw that one of the summits was in 2014. So that was a year after you got started.
Actually, the first summit, I believe, was actually 2018.
Okay, 2018.
The first summit. Yeah,
okay.
We did that in Memphis, Tennessee, and just another example in terms of how things unexpected happens. God provides opportunities. So we were making these short documentary videos and putting them online. And there was a hospital in Memphis that saw one of the videos, and they reached out to me and said, we'd like to do a summit for the local kids, inner city kids in Memphis. Can you come down here? Can you help us with the summit? And that summit's actually what gave us the blueprints to set up the model to grow Black Men in White Coats and reach more people across the country.
Okay. So, Dr. Daniel, what do you think happens? What do you think it's doing? And one of the things that I think Dr. Dale just said was, it was several years ago that you found out only 2% of the doctors in this country are Black men or Black men and women. So what do you think happens when kids get into high school? What do you think happens? Is it that it's too difficult, or they don't know anybody who's a physician that looks like them, or they think that that's a field that they just cannot get into? What is it about medicine that kids are just not doing? What is it? Because there are quite a few areas where Black kids are just not gravitating. I know that they do hip hop and rap. We know that. We know that they aspire to be basketball players, football players. We know that. So what happens? They don't go into the medical field. Is it because they've got to learn math? They've got to learn science? Or they have to be diligent? They have to be disciplined? What is it? What do you think? I'm going to go to Dr. Daniel, and then I'm going to go to Dr. Richard Harris.
Yes, that's a very, very good question. So I apologize in advance. My son, my wife just took off and just dumped these kids on me. So, and these doors in here do not lock. So
that's okay. I'm still thinking you guys are teenagers yourself.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's a very good question. You know, it really actually starts even earlier than that. So you know, there's something called the fourth grade syndrome. So by fourth grade, that's when there's a lot, the world is basically putting its influence in these children, and also biases start taking place. You're not that cute little kid anymore. People are seeing you differently. And, you know, people are telling you, you know, put a ball in your hand, you should be shooting. You're seeing your people all around you, you're looking at your parents, the different role models. You just don't have those, the doctors in the lives of these kids. And that's one of the big things that we wanted to be visible to these children and let them know this is a tangible goal that they should be aiming for. So even way back when, that's when it starts creeping in, and those things start adding up. By the time you're in high school, sometimes these kids are behind, and you have your peers may have those doctors in their family. And oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, so they have those people around them that can be guiding them into these fields. So yeah, I think that's the major thing that's impacting our youth.
Okay. Dr. Harris, same question?
I think, you know, this is one of those things that the problem is diverse, and so the solution has to be diverse. I think a major problem is representation, is that a lot of kids growing up just don't see, especially Black and brown kids, see people who look like them who are doctors. And we know that representation matters tremendously. I think also it's that if you look at American society in general, we're very focused on instant gratification. You know, what's going to happen for me, you know, today? What's the quickest way I can make money? What's the quickest way I can lose weight? It's always about quick. And that gets even worse if you're from an area or an environment where you have to survive. Right. And then there's that survivor's mentality. And in that survivor's mentality, you're not thinking about, okay, in 20 years, I can make a good living being a doctor. That's too long. Mm-hmm. And so it's coming out of that and really helping people plan and see a bright future, not only for themselves and for future generations. Because once you have someone in the family become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, it changes the trajectory of your family for generations.
Yes.
And it's having these conversations and getting people to think more about the long term and the impact, not only for now, but for 5, 10, 15 years. Because as we all know on this panel, time goes by very quickly.
Yes.
You know, if we look back right now and look at medical school, it seemed like forever going into it, you know, when you're in it, but now it seems like it went by very quickly. Mm-hmm. I was in school for 15 years after high school, and it went by very, very quickly. Yeah. And now I'm like, where did the time go? So I think having these conversations is very important.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask our soon to be Dr. Edward Robinson. I'm going to ask him a question, then I'm going to turn the questions over to Kenny Hendricks. Soon to be Dr. Edward Robinson, I've got a question for you. You can unmute yourself. You're a Morehouse man. Yay.
Yes.
Tell us about your experience in medical school, where you are, where you're going to see yourself in a couple of years. How many years do you have to go? And the influence that you have gotten from these gentlemen, these doctors on the panel.
Yes. First of all, yeah, thank you for having me on. I think, you know, I start with the last point and the influence that Black Men in White Coat had on my life. I was talking with Dr. Daniel actually not too long ago of how I was in Italy, kind of thinking about, I was in high school thinking about going to the medical field. And as they spoke about very well, the lack of representation, especially being overseas, was you know, very much evident, right? And both in high school and the medical field, just seeing prominent Black males or just a Black person was not something that you could see. So Black Men in White Coat in 2013 when they started and then started making their videos. I actually was able to see one of those videos on YouTube, started following that, and it kind of inspired me, right? And I used that as kind of a fuel to keep going. And then when I came to the States finally and made that jump and started college over here, I knew that I wanted to go to medical school. And that helped a lot because I didn't fall in a lot of the pitfalls that some of my peers fell in, especially those first couple of years of college where for one reason or another, students are, especially students of color, not, start doubting themselves and their capabilities of reaching that next level, right? And actually applying to medical school, because that's the biggest step. Kind of like not allowing students to get into medical school, and so for me to have that environment, that friendly environment, and also that representation from Black Men in White Coat was really, really powerful. Now I'm Morehouse, it couldn't have been a better match for me. I was in Boston before, and so it was kind of a culture shock to come in the South. Never been in the South, so it was wonderful to experience so much camaraderie within medicine, and just the environment was just fantastic. So I can just focus on medicine, not think about a lot of the other construct, right, that are around you when you're in a PWI. At times in a predominantly white institution, a lot of the things that you might have to go through. So I didn't have to worry about that. I can just worry on my studies. And so for that, I feel very liberated for that reason. And now, going into my second year, I have to take step one. So it's, I'm looking forward to studying. Definitely, I'm thinking about going into neuroscience, something involving neuroscience, either neurology or neurosurgery. I have to see. But it's been definitely a wonderful process so far, and a lot. I have to thank my mentors too.
Very good. Very good. Well, I've got about 45 more questions, but I'm going to turn this over to Kenny Hendricks so he can get his questions in before I start on my 45. Go ahead, Kenny.
And all doctors, all thank you. And Dr. DeBee, thank you for being here. I echo my sentiments that this is sorely needed in our community. And this is a wonderful, wonderful program. And I applaud you all for all that you do. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a Black man in a white coat. I do have on a white shirt. So I am supporting you. I'd like to address this question to Dr. Noble. Dr. Noble, when kids come into a field like medicine, which is hard in and of itself, but then it's coupled with things that we see in terms of being a diverse community and the obstacles that we face, both academically and culturally. What do you tell kids? How do you address kids who run into obstacles and say, I can't do this, this is hard. What about this? I didn't know this was going to happen. What are some of the types of things that you tell these kids that, you can do it? How do you get past those obstacles with those kids?
That's a great question. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you for having us on here. It's always a pleasure to be here with, like Dale said, my fellow brothers in arms. And I think it goes back to some of the comments made earlier that it starts young. Having 5 kids, the youngest right now is 4. And the first thing is just telling her, never say you can't, because as soon as you say that, you're already defeated. And I think that the theme of having individuals walking that path is helpful. Because first and foremost, we got to tell them that you're going to fall. I mean, that's just life. Life is falling, life is failing, life is getting back up. And I think that the resiliency factor that is needed to get through medicine is important. And the resiliency of having to take tests, having to struggle with your own sort of personal difficulties. And I like the theme of, to be honest and tell the truth, that we got to tell the truth. And one of the things that I had to do along my journeys through medicine was be honest with myself as far as the difficulties that I had with testing, the difficulties that I had with my own sort of procrastination. And so what that meant was I had to know myself and prepare for those sort of pitfalls that if I knew that I, had to study for step 1 or step 2, and good luck, Edward, on taking that test. But if I knew that I had to study for that, I had to study well in advance, and I couldn't cram, I couldn't procrastinate. So what I tell young people is that you're gonna have these pitfalls, and mentorship and surrounding those individuals around you that are truly positive peer influence is the one help you get back up, because we're all gonna fall. I failed tests, I've had a repeat, a year in med school. I had struggles with taking standardized tests, but through it all, the one thing is continuing to push forward. And at the end of the day, it may not end up the way that you want it or the way that you may have planned it, but you'll get there. And so you just got to keep plugging away and keep pushing through and surrounding yourself with positive peer influences.
Okay, great. And I'll give this next question to Dr. Dotson. I did notice on the end of one of the videos that there were some corporate sponsors for the program. I can't remember exactly who they were. Can you speak to a little bit about who the corporate sponsors are, if you can name them on the air, and talk about how they help you and where else you might get your funding to continue the program?
Yeah, so, once again, thank you so much for having us with you guys tonight. So I may not be the best person to talk about the corporate sponsorships. I might want to defer this one to Dr. Daniel. I will say that I'm very grateful for all the corporate sponsorships as well as the private sponsorships that we receive from our donors all across the country. But I think Dr. Daniel and Dr. Noble might have a little bit more knowledge to exactly who it is if I'm
Okay. Just to give you some more airtime, another question I was going to have, but I'll go ahead and ask you this other question is, once kids go, I'm not exactly sure how the program works, but once the kids go through the program, is there a specific, I know you've had a couple of summits, is there a specific curriculum that they go through, and is there any follow-up once they go through to see who's doing what after they've left the program?
Yes, that's another very good question. In regards to the more specifics of things, I think also Dr. Daniel as well as Dr. Dell might have a bit more knowledge with that. The key thing for Black men and white coats is that we are a true conglomerate and network of Black men who are in medicine across the country. After these summits, we provide all of our students with our information, and we basically tell them like, hey, if you are serious, if you're wanting to go into medicine, reach out to us and we will connect you with whomever it is that you need to be connected with so that we're able to continue this pipeline from point A to point B. It's very often that Dr. Dale will reach out to me personally and say like, hey, Aaron, like I have some students who are in high school, who are in college, who are in medical school, who are interested in ophthalmology, who are wanting to go into medical school. They just need that person to work with them one-on-one. And I think that it's those types of interactions and experiences that have been so beneficial through this organization that would not be able to happen without Black men in white coats. So, I mean, I'm very, very happy with how this organization has begun, and I'm extremely proud of how much it has grown with just such short period of time.
All right, thank you for that. Back to you, Colette.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want me to speak on those.
Go ahead, Dr. Daniel, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, regarding sponsorship, I mean, as soon as we started this in 2013, as my brother said, and by the way, Dr. Dale, he said he apologized. He had another meeting he had to run to, but he was very, very grateful for this opportunity. But so since 2013, and we started putting those videos out, and basically we're highlighting doctors because we truly, truly believe hearing our stories is probably one of the most powerful things they can do to impact and influence the youth. So we pretty much were going to different schools. Different schools were contacting us and saying, no, we have this physician here, this Black doctor, and we want to tell his story. Because when you're going through med school, it can be a very, very lonely process. If you're going through PWI, like myself, I was 1 out of 200. I was the only Black male in my class. So it leads to things like imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you're good enough. Do I belong here? These type of things, they come up. So actually seeing a Black male, which I can probably count how many Black males I saw on a hand. Now the sisters are doing much better. So the statistics, and Dale left out part of the statistic because he went back to the initial study he saw was from 2002 and showed the number going down. But then the study came out the following year to show since 1978, the numbers had been dropping for Black men. Black women had been going up. And then another study came out even more recently and showed these numbers have been pretty much stagnant since I believe like 1940s or something. So it's a huge issue. So anyway, we just felt like, okay, let's tell these stories. And these schools, they started wanting to get on board. So some of them were sponsoring these videos to allow us to be able to shoot at these different places. And different organizations like Army, Navy and all that wanted to get on board. In 2000 and I think it was 19 or 20, yeah, 2019, actually Aaron and Dale were on the Today Show. And Dale had been thinking about this idea for a long time. He's always come up with these ideas and he was saying, you know, we need to have a movie to get it out there. And once that came out, a lot of sponsorships, people were interested in knocking on the door and said, you know, we believe in this mission, we need to get it out. So that's pretty much what happened there. And in terms of following up with these kids and students after these summits, we have basically put all our effort in, again, telling the story. So we have some podcasts that are out there and we try to make sure students can hear these stories. And then we also have different websites like Diverse Medicine, which is a network where doctors, Black doctors are on there and the students are also on there and they can find mentors on there. And then every quarter we have different meetings that take place, mentorship meetings where the students can come on board. And last weekend, actually, Edward and Morehouse, we're now getting some chapters on board who are very interested in promoting this. And they actually did a clinical case presentation, which just blew my mind because there were a bunch of students on there from age 8 all the way up to some med students there. And they're really engaged in the cases that they were presenting. And they stayed on for way past like 2 hours. Oh, wow. So those are the type of things that we do.
Wow, that's incredible. That's great. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, one of the things that we have talked about a great deal on this broadcast is where kids are going. I think I may have mentioned before, Dr. Daniel and Dr. Noble, when you were on, I remember forcing my daughter to go to a medical school summit because I knew that when the time came, she was going to become a doctor. She was really good in the sciences. And at the time that she went to San Dimas High School and Morehouse, Meharry, Howard, I believe 7 Black medical schools. There are 7 Black medical schools. Is that right? No? No? Anybody know?
No, so I think there are only technically about 4. So there's Morehouse for sure, Morehouse School of Medicine, Howard University School of Medicine, Meharry Medical College, and then also the Charles Drew Medical Institution, which is in conjunction with UCLA based in Los Angeles. I think it's really just those 4 right now. And that's another conversation. I mean, we're very blessed to have these current Black HBC medical schools. But I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to see more.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if there are only 4, then there had to be, USC had to be in there, UCLA had to be in there. But what they did, Drew was at the helm and there was a summit and it began with Drew. The schools that they invited were schools from LA, San Dimas High School, Pomona High School, and so on. There must have been maybe 3,000 kids, and it began at the Century Plaza. Yeah, it began at the Century Plaza, and it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So doctors, Black doctors came from all over to be a part of this, and it was similar to what you do. It happened that year, and that had, my daughter graduated in 96, I think it was, and haven't had anything like that since. Haven't had anything like that since. And they did say that there were previous summits in Los Angeles, but since that one in 96, haven't had one since. Have not had it since. It was huge. It was huge. Doctors came from all over. They spoke to kids on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They stayed at the Century Plaza. It was a very, very inspiring weekend. Very inspiring weekend. Now, The kids that actually became doctors after that, maybe 2. It didn't go on. There was no way to follow those kids and to ensure that they went into medicine after this event. They got a weekend of fun and frolicking all over the Century Plaza. They got to do all these wonderful things, but nothing happened after that. Now ask me if my daughter went into medicine. How about no? No. And I was so sure that she was going to go into medicine. In fact, when I took her away to college, I went in and made sure she got all classes in biology so that she could become a doctor. Well, here she is, 43 years old, and she remembers what I did, thanks me for doing it, and feels bad because she didn't follow through. No, she's not a doctor today. But the one thing that I made sure I told all kids, and it's the same thing that you said, Dr. Noble and Dr. O, it's that kids see right now. Dr. Dodson, you said it. Kids see what happens right now. And what we're not doing is letting them know that it may take you 15 years, but you're a doctor for 50. You're a doctor for the rest of your entire life. Nobody can ever take that away from you. You will always be Dr. Kiana Williams. You can be 135 and a half. You will always be Dr. Kiana Williams. Our kids don't get it. And just as you said, doctors, they don't see anyone who looks like them that is doing anything like this. What they see and what they see on the tube are basketball players who look like them. So in their heads, that's what they aspire to, becoming a basketball player. I heard a basketball player say today, he never knew his father, but he had to thank his father because his father gave him his height. He's a basketball player and he's tall. How about a doctor? How about a doctor? And I have said, and I will continue to say, until you doctors refer me to a Black doctor, I don't have a Black doctor. And one of the things that I want to see is more doctors in the Black community. Just like the guest said, and I think the question was presented to Dr. Dale, what's going to happen? The disparities in healthcare will continue and they'll get worse. Look at what's going on in this pandemic. Look at what's going on now. And in the Black community, folks are running from the vaccination. They're running from the shot because they believe that theory that Big Pharma is trying to do something to them, put a chip in their arm so that they can find out where they are all the time. No, if you've got a phone, they know where you are all the time. Okay? So all of the theories that are surfacing and that are allowed to run rampant throughout the community, doctors have to do something about that. There is an organization in Los Angeles that's headed by Dr. Robert Jameson, and he tells me that they're going into the community. They're fanning out all over LA County to test people. We're back to testing people all over the county, because now people have to concern themselves with the Delta variant. We haven't gotten finished with the first one, but our doctors who look like us, will our people listen? Will our people listen? I don't know. Dr. Harris, what do you think? Do you think our people will listen? Do you think our people will follow the protocol and follow the instructions? My daughter asked me today, she said that in Australia, they're bringing in the military, and the military is going to make sure that everybody in Australia is vaccinated. Australia is back on lockdown. So are a few other countries back on lockdown. So the wait now is to see when this country is going to go back down on lockdown. But our Black doctors, what are we doing in the Black community? And for me, please don't be insulted. I'm only thinking about the Black community, not the Black and brown community. I'm only thinking about the Black community. Dr. Harris?
I think, and this is probably not the answer that you were expecting, I think people expect too much out of the doctors, honestly, because our reach is very limited, and our what we can do is limited, and what we can put on the air is limited. because what we say is so heavily scrutinized. Now, it is our message, it is our job to get the truth out there and to inform people and to make informed decisions. I am perfectly okay with someone not getting vaccinated if they know their risks, if they are informed, if they've had a serious thought about the risk and the benefit of getting the vaccine. I'm okay with that, because that's the essence of America. We have the right to make a choice about these things. Now, what I think is important is that people have the right peer groups. And in general, we in medicine underestimate the power of peer groups. That is extremely powerful. If I say one thing, even with my credentials and knowledge, and someone has 5 friends who say something different, they're going to end up believing those 5 friends, because that message is more salient. They hear it more, and there's more touch points. I get maybe 1 touch point with a person. Their peer group gets hundreds. And so we need community advocates who have been educated, who have been informed, to go out there and do that, because unfortunately there's a perception as a doctor sometimes that you're not a real person. I get that all the time, that, you know, you don't act like a doctor, you don't talk like a doctor, you don't even look like a doctor. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Right? And so again, we've talked about representation here.
MD.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. You're probably not old enough to remember that. That was a program back on in the early 60s, 70s. But anyway.
Marcus Welby, MD. Yeah.
That was the prototypical doctor, older white guy, gray hair, you know, because you don't look like that. People don't, I can believe that.
Right. And so I think it's up to us to help educate advocates and people who have a central role in the community, and for them to help educate another advocate, and it can spread that way. And I think that's the only way that you can really help with this spread of information, because yes, we are experts, but again, our scope and our reach is very limited. But if you educate a peer group or a community advocate, they have a far greater reach than we can.
Okay. And I find that your answer is fine. And I agree with you, actually. And if people understood their risks and the risk of others and where we are now, I think that things could be different in the Black community if Black folks saw more people telling them, educating them, informing them on how things are and what we can do. The interesting thing is, Doctor, who was also on the video, the Surgeon General. And I know that for a lot of people, they thought the Surgeon General backed that, what was he before Biden?
We call him the former guy.
Yeah, whatever the guy. He backed him, so I'm not going to listen to him because he was there with him. Instead of saying the Surgeon General has the knowledge. He's Black, he has the knowledge, he's a doctor, he's got the qualifications. Why not listen to him? Forget about that guy.
If I may, we have an issue getting to doctors in the first place.
In the first place, yes.
And it's because, and I think this program sort of addresses that, because for many years, most doctors did not look like us, and still most doctors do not look like us. So we have a hard time going there, telling them about our ills. They have a hard time culturally understanding some of the things that we go through. So, and I believe we had someone on one of the programs the other night who's a psychologist, and she said, you know, of course, we don't go to a psychologist because, again, they don't look like us, and we're not going to go tell, and I'm just going to say it's some white person, all of our business. So, and I think a program like this is, and even that may not be what it was intended to do, but I think as an additional benefit is that the more doctors, the more we will be able to and be comfortable going to the doctor and telling them what our issues are, because they look like us and they can understand the things that we need. Go ahead, Dr. Noble.
Well, to piggyback, on that point, and to raise the point that Dr. Richard Harris mentioned as far as the peer groups, and that's one of the things that we at Live Share Health do. Using those peer groups as far as because we do have those conversations. Those conversations are held with our pastor, with our barber, with our stylist, and being able to have those mental health visits or those conversations. We don't necessarily, when we go to our barber, we don't say we're having a mental health visit with our barber, but we're sitting up here talking about the things that stress us out, our job, relationships, family, the issues that, really affect how we eat, the thing, how we cope with life. We have those conversations, and it's about making those conversations and treating people and meeting people where they are, getting that education and combining the two and doing more with that visit. Because a lot of the care, to Dr. Harris's point, happens outside of the hospital, happens away from when they see the person in the white coat. But if we do the things, and this is why COVID-19 is wreaking havoc in the United States, we don't take care of the baseline things on a day-to-day basis, the high blood pressure, the diabetes, and yes, there's all the, the systemic issues that lend itself to that. But that's one of the reasons as to why we're having the issue that we're having with COVID-19. And again, back to Dr. Harris's point, in America, we can't necessarily force people, this is, we have freedoms, we have, constitutions. And so what sort of free rights? We can't do the things that worked in communistic countries or these other places, but we need to do more, test more. Because again, we're seeing that you can be vaccinated, but still COVID positive. And so to that point, we're learning a lot about this vaccine or a lot about this virus that we still don't know and understand. And we need everyone to be as with it as possible. And so if you don't vaccinate, please wear a mask, social distance, hand hygiene, do the basic things, get your underlying health under control. And together we can end this, but we have to think about community, and it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a struggle, but a lot of that is using those peer influences as best that we can.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And with all of that, not simply with COVID-19, and I believe we told all of you when you were on the show before that we did COVID-19, the color of COVID-19 in 2020. And I believe it was February of 21, we did part 2, the vaccine. And we've had Dr. Harrington on the broadcast several times who talks about the antibody testing and people who have had COVID and determining whether or not they have the antibodies and how that can help someone else. So what we're getting in our communities is simply that Black folks don't believe. They don't believe us. They don't believe the next person. They're just going to wait to see. They're just going to wait to see. And I believe wholeheartedly that if there were more folks, more men especially, that look like you, more men, I think our community would be more trusting. I think our community would be a whole lot more trusting because we're going to believe a man. That's hands down until you prove otherwise. We're going to believe you. So at this point, and just like you said, there's so many underlying issues, we've got to get to a point where we are a healthy community and a healthy family. And I know that Dr. Richard Harris, he and his wife have keto donuts. I hope to get some soon. But we have folks who just still eating at McDonald's. They're still eating that, all the things that are causing them the underlying issues. So instead of going to an area that keeps us healthy, we're still looking at unhealthy families. We're still looking at obesity. We're still looking at people with diabetes and all of those issues because we don't have people in our communities that look like us. And that is a travesty, and it makes our community ill. It makes our community sick by and large. So we've got to come to an agreement that this has got to change. That's why we're doing this. It's time to tell the truth. It is time to tell the truth. We've got to change our own narrative. And when we change our narrative, we are in control of our narrative, whether it is healthcare, whether it is our professions, whether it's education. We've got to change the narrative. And by us changing our narrative, we are in control of our trajectory. We've got to be in control of that. That's why we're doing this 5-part series. We've got to be in control of that. It's our responsibility. And as I said in the very beginning, I got to check everybody's birth certificate on here because I still don't believe it. We are going to go and come right back. You have been listening to Black Men in White Coats right here on the Intentional Talk Radio Network. Hold on real tight. Don't go away. How does that go, Kenny Hendricks? Stick and stay. Don't go away. We will be right back. Hey everyone, it's Colette Williams from Change Matters. Have you ever thought about hearing your voice in lights? Well, what I mean is on radio, with thousands and thousands of people listening. Well, now is your chance. You can join us here at Intentional Talk Radio by hosting your own show. Bring your friends and your family. You might become the next Tom Joyner or The Breakfast Club. Call us, drop us a line. Let's make it happen. That's Intentional Talk Radio Network. 214-919-5605 or drop us a line at changematters99@gmail.com. That's changematters99@gmail.com. See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Intentional Talk Radio Network. You can catch us every Monday from 5 to 7 Pacific for Mindful Mondays with Dr. Corliss Bennett. Every Tuesday from 5 to 7 Pacific for Change Matters with Kenny Hendricks and Colette Williams. Every first and third Tuesday from 4 to 6 Pacific for Your Life, Your Health with Dr. George Bell. Every Wednesday from 4 to 5 Pacific for Conversations with Colette and Corliss. And every Sunday for Shine with Shondell Wilhite.
Are you looking for somewhere to shop, for entertainment, or for your dining pleasure? Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza is the place you want to go, located in the heart of the community, on Crenshaw and Martin Luther King Boulevard. The Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza has 134 shops to serve you. The new hours are 11 a.m. till 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and Sunday, 12 noon to 6 p.m. If you're looking for a community restaurant, try the Post and Bean or the Kick and Crab. And don't go too far. Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza has the Cinemark Theater with current movies. And don't forget the Great Farmers Market every Saturday, 10 a.m. till 3 p.m., rain or shine. The mall also has great attractions and entertainment. The African American Museum and the Debbie Allen Dance Studio, Wells Fargo Bank, and Bank of America. Don't forget Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. You can find us on Facebook at Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza or on Instagram at hashtag Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. We are back. Thank you very much. This is Intentional Talk Radio Network. We're here with Black men in white coats. It is time to tell the truth. And we're beginning this series with Black men in white coats because we feel that it is so important that in order for us to change the narrative in our community, we must begin with us. And what better place than to begin right here with doctors, Black men in white coats. So I have another question that I'd like to ask soon to be Dr. Edward Robinson. How much longer are you going to be in medical school?
Yeah, so I have I have this year and then 2 more after that. So I'll be completing my preclinical years, and then I start rotation third year. Hopefully this time next year I'll be doing my rotations, and then one more year, and then I'll start residency. Don't know where yet, but it'll be definitely an exciting time.
Okay. Now, could you see yourself here? Were you
Absolutely.
able to see yourself here?
Yes, as some of the mentors that I have. That's what you're asking.
Were you able to see yourself in medical school and this close to becoming a doctor? Were you able to see that?
I think, you know, there were moments definitely growing up that that I didn't see that. You know, I in high school wasn't the best high school student. You know, there was definitely a tumultuous time in my life, and so through, you know, perseverance, and I think, as Dr. Noble very well said, is just perseverance, getting through those obstacles and never really losing faith in yourself. That's kind of was the key for me, and obviously having a very good support system around me as well. And so, you know, I think once I got to the States, I was able to see myself here. I was able to understand that I did have a place in medical school, and I did have a shot in becoming a physician.
Okay. Okay. One more question, then I'm going to turn it over to Louis. One more question. What made you think you could become a doctor and not a rapper?
That's a really good question. I think, you know, I was never really good at rapping. I have friends that are really good at doing that. Not really good at freestyling or any of that.
That's a good thing, actually.
Good answer.
Right. So that stopped really quickly. But I also enjoyed, I enjoyed, you know, I enjoyed my science classes a lot. I think I took a lot of inspiration from my mother. My mother was an activist as well as a community leader. She helped she was working in an immigrant shelter over where I lived in Italy. And so, you know, I wanted to do that type of work. I wanted to help people in that way and have that impact on their lives. And so, though there's a lot of careers that can help you with that, I felt that medicine was the one that could help me express my fullest potential, you know, as a person. And so that's why, you know, and then understanding all the issues coming to the States that surround our community, you know, that was so important for me to go into medicine, just because I saw it as a mission, you know. It is very much a calling. Yes. You know, it's something that I just didn't have a choice, if you really think about it, just because it was just something that I was called to do. So.
Very good. Great answer. I like that. I especially like the part that you admit you can't rap.
Yeah, the question for Dr. Daniel. Colette did bring up COVID, and I'd like to get just kind of a quick message from you to people. What are your thoughts about the hesitancy that we see in the community? Do you have a message for people who might be listening, who might be hesitant? I was hesitant at first, not for anything political or anything like that, but I look for a more holistic way of doing things. I'm not on any medications. I don't do medications if I can help it. I don't even do the flu shots. I'm not anti-vaccine or anything like that. I just don't do that. When they dropped the mask mandate here in Texas, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get it. So that got me through that. What might your message be, Dr. Daniel, to some of the folks out there who may still have some hesitancy to getting the vaccine?
That's a good question. You know, I think we've said it already a couple of times. The truth will set you free. I think that's what it's really boils down to. I mean, this is something that I think a lot of doctors aren't. This is nothing really new to us in terms of hesitancy. In terms, so sorry about that. So sorry about this. Yeah, about hesitancy, we have so many different.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mama, for teaching me.
I'm not granny for nothing.
My wife, she's on her way, I promise. This one comes in.
That's okay.
But yeah, you know, I think once you start teaching, letting people actually know the truth about these things, and stopping the misinformation, because I think there's a lot of people who are out there and are passing along messages that they have no business passing along, that haven't been verified, and it's just spreading and just making things worse. And the other thing that actually was on the texting a friend today who asked questions about the vaccine. She was had a lot of questions, and we were just going back and forth. While in between seeing patients, I'm texting her back. You know, I told her, you know, and I'm Christian. She's a strong Christian as well. And I said, you know, I kind of see it as a sacrificial thing. You know, I'm not just looking at it for myself, but I'm looking at it for all my patients. I'm looking for my neighbors. I'm looking at it for. So you have to look at it, think beyond yourself in managing this. So that's kind of simple. And then also, I think let people know that, like, make it realistic, make them understand that, you know, the things that you're doing to your body may be just as harmful as anything you can imagine these vaccines doing. You know, the beers you're drinking or the pizza you ate and those type of things. Yeah. So I apologize. Let me.
Right. I think Dr. Dotson answered, but let me just say this. There was a movie I watched some years ago, and I can't remember what movie it was, but two guys were sitting arguing about, one guy was talking about he doesn't eat pork, but he proceeded to go ahead and put heroin in his arm. Well, that's what, I get what you're talking about. People say, I'm not going to do that. They're doing this. And he goes down and has a big gulp, you know, a bag of the chicharrones. Dr. Dotson, did you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to add to what Dr. Daniel had said. So for me personally, I graduated medical school in 2020. I was a part of the medical school class that had every single thing stripped away from us. We did not have match day. We did not have graduation, and we were thrown into the front lines of coronavirus as soon as we started our intern year of residency. What I want for people to know is that this virus is very much so real, and this virus has taken so many lives of our very own people and will continue to take lives unless we do something about it. I've had several patients as well as many friends come and tell me look, we got patients in the ICU who are on their deathbed who will tell you stone cold to your face that they do not have coronavirus, even though their tests are coming back positive, they're on 10+ liters of oxygen, etc. If you look at the data currently, almost 100% of people who are currently hospitalized and who are currently dying are those who chose to not get the vaccine. The vaccine itself is not injecting the live version of the virus into the body. It is simply injecting a very tiny particle of the genetic material so that your body can mount an immune response to the virus if you get exposed to it. It is not 100% foolproof. However, if you are vaccinated and if you are exposed to the virus, you are much less likely to be hospitalized, to have severe symptoms, and to die. This is something that I personally do get very, very triggered by, because as a class of 2020 in medicine, we're very hurt. So when I hear people, coming around spreading fake news and misinformation, I'm just like, now hold up. My favorite thing in medicine is being able to break down very complicated things to pretty much where anybody can understand it. So just like how the theme of the talk is for tonight is, let's be real, let's tell the truth. The truth of the matter is that those who are not getting vaccinated are usually the ones who are dying now. And it's very common for patients and their families to come in and they are often saying, I wish I would have gotten the vaccine. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And most times it is too late. So I just wanted to share that with y'all.
No, thank you for that. Thank you. I think that's a good word. It is the misinformation And we had, not to get political here, but we had 4 years of misinformation. So it's no wonder that we're in this position right now. And it really is a shame. One of our good friends passed on from it very early on, and her husband still will not get the vaccine. People just, and he said something about those globalists, and he's hurting right now still. So I didn't want to get into a conversation with him about that. But I believe it's real. I don't understand how people can run out and talk about it's a hoax. I had another lady tell me that she had a friend who has a friend who
has a friend.
Yeah. Whose daughter died in an automobile accident, got hit by a semi, and they put COVID, cause of death, COVID, on her birth certificate. Now, again, people that I've run into that have said these things, it's always been a friend of a friend. Nobody knows this firsthand. It's always second and third hand. So unfortunately, we are in this position right now. And I'm hoping someday that we can get past it. Right now, I don't have a whole lot of hopes that we're going to get past this anytime in the near future, just because people refuse to believe the science. And the one thing I did want to say, and I'll turn this back over to Colette, is that, I have people send me these videos from YouTube and Snapchat and TikTok. And my thing is, okay, I've got my choice. Dr. Anthony Fauci he's a leading infectious disease guy. He's been under 4 or 5 presidents, et cetera. I could go on and on about his credentials. Am I supposed to believe him or some random dude on the internet? And with that, I yield back the rest of my time.
And I'll take it. That is very true. And as I said, if our community, and I can only think of our community, I do think of everyone, but I have to think of our community. As I watched the hearing this morning and listening to Officer Dunn and listening to the things, the vulgarities that were hurled at him, they told him, "Boo, you effing NIG. Oh, look at the effing NIG. He voted for Dotson. You effing NIG."
He voted for Biden. I don't think Dotson was voting.
As president.
Dr. Unless there's something you're not telling us.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Running for president in 24. A doctor, that would be good. But they hurled all of these vulgarities at him. And this man is still in pain today. And all of the 4 people on the panel are still very much in pain. And one of them said, had this been Black Lives Matter, it never would have gotten this far. It would have been something entirely different. And they're saying that on the panel. So as I said in the beginning, the reason we're doing this series is to bring truth to power. It's to create a level of power in our community. And the way that we have to do that is to tell the truth. We have to tell the truth no matter how hard it is, no matter what they don't want to listen to. I've got folks in my family who don't believe the science. They believe a different science. They believe something else. And my daughter was very upset because her dad called her the other night at 11:30 Central Time, 9:30 Pacific Time. And she said for her phone to ring at 11:30, something bad had to happen somewhere. So when she answered the phone, she said, "What happened? What happened?" And he just wanted to get on her about taking the vaccine. And she's so upset behind his going on and on about the vaccine, but she's part of the group that doesn't believe it. She's part of that group that just thinks that there's something else. There's a different theory. And she's one of the ones that should be in medicine also. It would be something greater if she looked at this in a different way. And for those who don't look at this in a different way, who don't understand what's going on in our community, who don't understand why we're on the bottom end of all of this, even though we've got 2% black Black doctors in this country, folks still aren't listening. So again, we're back to it's time to tell the truth. It's time to tell the truth. And Black folks, especially, are really not doing well in this pandemic. Black folks are just not doing well because our eating habits are bad. We don't have access to very good doctors who really and truly care about us. We don't have access to healthy food. We don't have access to the education, or don't want to listen, or relying on the Tuskegee experiment. Still going back to that. And one of the things that I say when people start talking about that is Big Pharma's not thinking about you. Not today. Maybe back then, but not today.
Interesting that the people least likely, the most hesitant, least likely to get the vaccine are people in the Black community and far right wingers. People on diametric in opposite ends of the spectrum are the two that are least likely to get the vaccine, which is a really interesting paradigm if you think about it, because of the mistrust. Now, people in the Black community, I understand why we've got a great mistrust of the government. People on the other end, their mistrust is fabricated because they've been told some things, that the government doesn't want to do anything for you. But it's just an interesting paradigm. Did you have something, Dr. Dotson?
I actually did. I mean, I don't mean to go off script with things here, but I think that just speaks more to the truth of why we need more Black men in medicine.
Yes.
Our studies continue to show that those who become physicians are more likely to serve the communities that they come from. I am born and raised in Inglewood, California, and for people on this call tonight who know Inglewood, California, it's a lot different compared to Beverly Hills, which is up the road.
Yeah.
It's an area that it's an area that has been relatively plagued with just being an underserved community, and I don't want to say completely forgotten about, but it has been neglected compared to the more affluent communities in Los Angeles. I went to medical school in St. Louis, Missouri. My favorite medical school rotation was in East St. Louis, Illinois, which is notoriously known as one of the most dangerous cities in the entire country, and honestly, one of the most forgotten about cities. Me being a Black medical student, seeing my patients made the absolute world to them. I felt like I made the most impact to my patients because they saw somebody who looked like them, who was able to speak in a way that they understood, and who was able to relate to them. I know within my personal future, I look forward to going back to communities similar to Inglewood, both locally as well as abroad all over the world, so that I'm able to give back to these underserved, disadvantaged communities, as well as to help pass this information along. So I think this all speaks to the truth of that. This is why we are here tonight. This is why all of this stuff matters. And if we don't continue to invest within this organization and to invest within this mission, just like Dr. Dale has said, Black people will continue to suffer. Black people will continue to die. And we don't want that to happen.
Right, right. And just as you're saying that, we don't want that to happen. We can't afford for that to happen. There are studies constantly that are being done, that are being published. And one of the studies that is recent came out in Forbes magazine, and one of our board members brought it up during one of the other shows. And it is that by the year 2053, the Black economic status in this country by 2053 will be 0. And they've upped it. By 2033, which is next week, the economic status of the Black community will be 0. That's where we are. That is precisely where we are. And we're not looking at what our community is doing. Look at this study. March 7th of this year, 1.4 times the rate of white people. And that, I hope, changes the minds of so many people who are Black. And if we don't do something about this, we can't complain. We cannot complain. It's incumbent upon us. It's our responsibility to do something about this. And that has to be done through education. That has to be done through a constant dialogue. And we know Black folks, to educate them, we also have to feed them. Please. We also have to make them feel good. We also have to tickle them, give them something that they really want. And that's a fact. And that's our community. We've got to change the narrative. We have to change the narrative. The other is that we know that there are very few doctors, few Black doctors around. And Dr. Dotson, you are in Inglewood. You know, there are no Black doctors in Inglewood. I can name them. There are 5 of them. I can name them. There's 1, maybe 2 Black cardiologists. There's 1 podiatric medicine. There are maybe 4 dermatologists. Over by the airport, the brothers, the gastro doctors. And I think that might be it. Kaiser, because Kaiser is now in LA behind Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. The chief of staff over there is Black. There's a Black pediatrician over there also. But by and large, there are no Black doctors. And I think all of the Black doctors that I know, we've had them on this show. Few and far between. Very, very few. And I've asked the question, why are Black doctors not coming together and building something? Why is it we rely on Kaiser? Why is it we only have Kaiser? And after Mark Ridley Thomas made sure that Charles Drew became a part of UCLA, that's why it opened again. But why do we not have a Dotson or a Okorodudu Medical Center? Why don't we have that? Why don't we have the Harris Medical Foundation? Why don't we have that? We should have that. Is there any reason that we don't have that? I'd like for all of you doctors to answer that for me. Dr. Harris, Dr. Dotson, Dr. Noble, Dr. Edward Robinson, Dr. Daniel, please answer that for me. Why do we not have the Black version of Kaiser?
I think that's a very good point that you brought up. And when you were kind of mentioning the Black doctors in Inglewood, you might have remembered he's retired now as Dr. Stuart L. Gilbert. He was a Black internal medicine physician. He was my mentor. He's the reason why I am a physician today. He was a part of the Regent Medical Group, which I want to say is like kind of sort of near Centinela Hospital, where they had 3 or 4 different Black doctors there. But, you know, many of the people there, they're getting ready to retire. They're getting ready to step down. And because we don't have the sheer numbers or the force, they don't have the ability to pass on that practice from one generation to the next. Dr. Goodwin is a Black ophthalmologist, Black glaucoma eye surgeon who's based near LAX airport and everything there. You know, he told me, he's like, well, you know, Aaron, if you want to go into glaucoma, the practice is right here for you. If I wanted to go into urology, Dr. Thomas Johnson of Los Angeles told me the same thing. You want to go into urology, the practice is right here for you. That's why we have to increase our force in order to be able to get these things passed down and to build things up again.
Yes, yes. Dr. Harris.
I think there's twofold reasons for this, and well, not twofold. I'm gonna go into 2 of them, but one of them I think is something we alluded to earlier, and this is a point I wanted to make: is that representation matters, but your Black doesn't have to be my Black, right? There's a notion that if you don't act a certain way, if you don't talk a certain way, if you don't do this or that or whatever, you're not Black, and there needs to be inclusivity in our community. Like, I love sports, but I also love anime and comic books. I'm a huge nerd. And I spent most of my life hearing that I'm not Black. And I was like, okay, because I like certain things, that makes me not Black somehow? Pretty sure I got melanin in my cells. Pretty sure I'm Black, right? So I think that's part of it. We have to be accepting that, hey, your definition of Black may be different than my definition of Black, but that's all good. If you like comic books, you like comic books. If you like art, you like art. If you like crocheting, you like crochet. And just be inclusive and bring that diversity, because that diversity of thought makes us all stronger. And then I think the other issue is a general systemic issue in medicine. This is the first time in medical history where less than 50% of the medical practices are owned by physicians. It is very, very hard to start a medical practice these days on your own. It's even very hard to get in a group to do it, because you're competing against gigantic hospital systems who have multi-million-dollar advertising budgets and who already have a captive audience of patients. You know, that's not an easy thing to do. It would be like starting a business and your main competitor is Walmart. Probably not going to go well. So I think that we need to empower physicians to be physicianpreneurs again, entrepreneurs, to run their own business. And that starts in medical school, teaching physicians how to actually run a business, how to do billing, how to do coding, about marketing, about these things, because then you can take your idea and go to the local community and set up shop. Nowadays, that's very hard, almost impossible to do for a new physician.
So
that's interesting. I bring the local doctor that I go to, the clinic, was bought out by a conglomerate a couple of years ago. And it used to be, you know, just the local doctors here and everything was fine. And the way you just said that, it just struck me, because it's now it's some chain, Texas Healthcare Associates or something like that, when it used to be Capel Family Medical. Now it's Texas Healthcare Associates, which is part of a much larger group. That's an interesting concept.
And there's actually data that shows that it's making the system worse and more expensive doing it that way.
Yeah.
So it's hurting everyone involved, that physicians are not in control of their destinies and their businesses like we used to be.
So go ahead, Dr. Noble.
So, and to really address some of the issues that what we need to do to combat this, I mean, what you see on the call are individuals that have, you know, as entrepreneurs, invested into individuals that really believe that we can do something better. And so, you know, when you have physician investors, individuals willing to sit up here and back their money up, their financial investment into a Black-owned startup healthcare company looking to address these healthcare disparities by putting in their blood, sweat, and tears, and also their financial capital, those are the things, you know, that need to happen to really expand the network, addressing healthcare issues right where people are. And it's really that sort of thinking outside the box, understanding who we are as a country, as far as this capitalistic foundation, and understanding that this healthcare system or this sick care system wasn't designed for us, and we get reimbursed. You know, I get paid to sit up here and treat heart disease, not prevent heart disease. So right. You come see me when I need to do a coronary bypass, or the cardiologist can't put a stent in, you need to see me. And so when you get paid or reimbursed for treating the disease or giving medication rather than preventing the long-term effects of not exercising, living in gentrified areas, you know, bad zip codes, all that other stuff, that's what leads to a lot of these the statistics that you guys showed. And so to that point, we need to do what Dr. Okorudu's are doing, creating that pipeline of more Black physicians. So we have more individuals to sit up here and say, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to work for this large corporation. And then we, again, need to think outside the box, trying to take back the autonomy that we need to have to give the care to our community. Because when we work with some of these big conglomerates, you can get controlled and dictated as to where you can go, what you can do, and who you can serve. And our best talents are oftentimes served with people that appreciate us and truly understand what we're trying to do. And so it is a complicated effort, but I think it starts with baby steps, and some of these brothers on this call are making those steps.
Absolutely. Dr. Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I love what everybody else just said. What I thought Dr. Noble was getting at also with like innovative ways to approach this is what we really, really need. Because as Dr. Harris said, it's super, super tough to start a practice. That was something I was planning on doing when I came to Dallas, and I did a lot of research into it, and I said, you know, it's just not worth it. But innovative measures like LiveChair, which Dr. Harris, Dr. Noble, and I are part of. Andrew Suggs, he's the founder. And basically it's innovative way of getting the barbershops and the medical doctors together. So we meet up together, once a month and kind of discuss ways that we can reach these communities. So although it may not be a brick and mortar, building there, but it's impacting the community greatly. And something else that I want to mention that's oftentimes not really appreciated with a lot of Black doctors as ourselves, there is something called the Black tax that a lot of us end up facing, especially when you get into academics, because there's a lot of, we love our communities and we want to pour into our communities as much as we can. So a lot of us are taking on a lot on our shoulders in terms of, mentoring students here, being part of this committee, being part of this, trying to start this up here. So whereas some of our peers may go home or do their work, go home, start playing with their kids and all that, we may have 2 or 3 more meetings we need to get on to try to help the community. So these type of things sometimes can get a bit challenging, a little taxing, but a lot of us, we do it because it's something we're really, really passionate about and that we love. But one of the things I've also noticed is just, and I don't know, maybe it's the pandemic that's going on. A lot of us, we've been doing this for years, and there wasn't much emphasis put on these disparities until, this COVID came out. So as painful as it is, I think if we learn from this, we can make some huge change and change the narrative in this country. But how much the community is pouring into our efforts now just blows my mind. With Black Men White Coats, we get tons of messages, people I want to start this up, I want to do this in this community, I want to, how can we help? The Black Greek Letter organization, last year during the pandemic, they put together a bunch of funds and gave it to us so we can start pour into students, because there's always a financial barrier for a lot of students in getting into medical school. So we've been giving scholarships out to take the MCAT. We've been giving scholarships out to get study prep books and these type of things. So it has to be a community effort. All of us get into this together to make these changes.
Go ahead, Kim.
Dr. Daniel, I wanted to give you an opportunity do you have the next year's summit scheduled yet? Do you have any information on, I guess I wanted to make sure you got information on the organization and anything that you might have scheduled out. We've got about another 20 minutes left still, but I just wanted to make sure you took as much time as you need to talk about the organization and anything that you might have coming up in the distant future or the near future.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. I think the best way of getting involved or keeping up to date is going to blackmenandwhitecoats.org. So blackmenandwhitecoats.org. And if you sign up for the email list, I'm not sure, it's on one of those pages, you can find it. We typically hold a large summit in Dallas, Texas, once a year. Last year we had to do it virtually. The year before we did the Barack Obama Academy. And so that's a huge summit. Could be thousands of people show up to these things. But then we're also doing them last year before COVID hit, we were actually going to do it all across the nation in different cities, which we're following through on. So more and more cities are starting to hold their individual summits. So we get, every day we're getting messages from, Cleveland, Ohio, New York City, and, they say, we want to start a summit here in this city. So we're putting them on all across the country, that people just need to get a hold of us. I think the email is info@blackmenandwhitecoats.org, info@blackmenandwhitecoats.org. And for students who are interested in, finding mentorship, kind of getting into that pipeline, diversemedicine.com was a website we created some years back. And so students can get on there. A lot of us are on there. If they have questions, they can shoot us messages. And we try to connect them with whatever service or mentorship that they need. And again, every quarterly, we're having these sessions online where a lot of students, a lot of doctors, Black doctors, it's a beautiful, beautiful sight. I tell you, we're all on there just pouring into each other. And oftentimes it's supposed to be like a 1 hour or 2 hour event, and it goes on and on and on because there's just so much knowledge that's being passed on. So,
Wow, Great. Now, will there be something this year in 21?
We had one earlier. It was virtual. It was a virtual summit. Actually, Hill Harper was our keynote speaker. So
Okay.
he was like he was in the movie. So
Yes.
he was really, really excited about it, and he gave a really, really powerful speech. So we did that, but there are plenty of others. I can't even keep up with them. So Dale, I don't know how he has time to do all the stuff that he does, but we probably have, there are definitely some more going on this year. And actually we put out the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a BMWC movie. .com. Yeah, bmwcmovie.com.
Okay.
And after the movie was put out, it pretty much played in almost every med school across the country. So over hundreds of med schools were watching it, and they had huge meetings together. And so Dale, especially, he's been going to hosting sessions with them. And so the Black doctors from that medical school and whatnot all get on and just kind of express themselves. And for once, you feel like you're being listened to. And there's people who are actually understanding our plight and want to get involved and help out. So it's been a beautiful thing. There's actually been a lot of change that's been taking place from this in different medical schools, and they want to. So there's a lot of policy change, a lot of discussions, and a lot of them are starting summits in their schools as well. They're saying, you know what, let's put on one for next year or the year after. So we're trying to help them help facilitate that as best as we can.
Well, I, for one, believe that the best way to get to the masses is to hold something and give them something that they will gravitate to. I think this is perfect. And you've had a summit before. I've done summits before. This needs to happen again. I haven't heard that you've had one in Los Angeles. No?
I know it's in the pipeline. I know
it's in the pipeline.
It's definitely cooking. It's definitely cooking. But the one in Dallas should be in February. Around February is when we typically do it, and that's
okay.
People come from all over the country to come to that one. But yeah, but we'll be trying to do local ones all across again.
Okay. Well, you can count us in. You can count us in to be part of that, and it would be an awesome opportunity for us to be a part of that and to get the word out and to bring as many students as possible. Students need to know, kids need to know. My soon to be 10-year-old granddaughter needs to know that she can do this. All of the young Black boys need to know they can do this. Rapping is not the only thing out there. Thank you, Dr. Edward Robinson. It's not the only thing out there. They can do this. And just as you have said, and we know this to be a fact, they don't see anybody that looks like them. So as far as they know, they can't be a doctor. What is that? I have friends who are airline pilots. Black kids don't understand that they can also be an airline pilot. Black kids never go in Los Angeles. Dr. Dotson, you would know this. They never leave the street that they live on. And the airport is not that far away.
But it's the same thing with the people who didn't like the Cosby Show because it depicted a Black doctor married to a Black lawyer. And that was something that was outside of their realm of existence. They could not relate to that. And therefore they didn't like it, which is interesting because just because something isn't reflected in your world doesn't mean that you can't be that. And I understand that people don't know that. And I always tell people, white people can't fly through the air like a bird, but you got Superman, you got Spider-Man, you have all these superheroes. It doesn't stop other people from doing things, even though they don't see anybody like that. And I get that we don't see people, we need to see people, but we also have to be able to look beyond that. They tell people they can do things. Maybe you don't see anybody doing it. Sometimes you have to be the first one. You look at Tiger Woods, you look at Lewis Hamilton, you look at Simone Biles, Gabby Douglas, all these people that are doing things outside the box, things that they don't expect us to do. People expect us to play basketball, football, maybe a little baseball and those sorts of things. But these other things, they don't expect us to do. I've actually built a page on our website that's dedicated to people that are thinking outside the box, people who've dared to break the mold. that are doing something that wasn't expected. And you doctors are right in that category because people aren't expecting it. But this does exist. And this is living proof that Black doctors do exist, and more Black doctors can exist and will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead, Dr. Daniel.
No, I also want to emphasize something as well that oftentimes not as much credit is put into this, but teachers. Just as there's only 2% Black males in medicine, the same statistics hold for Black male teachers. 2%. Actually, they believe it's probably even less than that when you take into consideration the ones who aren't like coaching basketball and then just kind of teaching there on the side. So that is super, super critical for our youths to have more teachers that look like them and understand them as well. I can't remember the statistics, but having a Black male, male or woman, female teacher, your chances of graduating high school go up significantly.
Yes.
So starting them off young, that's something that needs to be, we need to put into effort into as well.
You were right, Doctor. It is 2%. Black men only make up 2% of teachers.
Yeah. And I have worked at schools. I'm in education in Los Angeles, and I have worked at schools where as a matter of fact, the school that I worked at in 19 and 20, there weren't any Black male teachers. And that's okay. We're not supposed to say anything about that. There were no Black male teachers. None. Saturn Elementary School. No Black male teachers.
It's not seen as a manly job.
Yeah, it is.
In our community.
Right. And the only reason that Black men take that is because they can't do anything else. That's the myth. It's because they can't do anything else. So we have a lot of ills in our community that have got to be fixed, that have got to be resolved, rectified. And before it's already too late, but that's not to say that we cannot fix this. Because as the studies go, and the studies are about us, it's other people doing the studies about us. We will be just about extinct in a short while. So if we don't make up some time with all of this, whether it's in the education field, the healthcare field, whether it's in aviation, it doesn't matter. We've got a lot of catching up to do. Soon to be Dr. Edward Robinson, how many students are in your class? How many of them will become doctors alongside you?
Yes, well, now I think it's 102. And we are at the largest class. We're the largest class. I think class of 2025 might have outnumbered us. But Morehouse is doing a really good job at expanding their numbers year by year. And it's just phenomenal.
So 102.
Yes.
Okay. And 102 will graduate as doctors.
Yes. Yes, that's, I think, in class of 2024, along the line, we, some students pursue MBAs, like dual degrees and other things of that sort. And so the class shrinks once we get to graduation, but all eventually graduate.
Yes. Okay. And Dr. Dotson, what about you? How many in your graduating class? You graduated last year.
Yes, so there were about 180 medical students who graduated with me from St. Louis University School of Medicine. My class was actually the most diverse class of SLU history. We had nearly 30 underrepresented minority students. We had 5 Black men in my class.
5?
All 5 of us, only 5 in my class. But the good thing is that all 5 of us started together and we all finished together and matched at top programs in the country. They are some of my closest friends. I still keep up with them all the time. So
5.
Yeah. Only
Okay.
5.
Only 5.
And honestly, that's a lot for a medical school. You
Yeah.
know, just like Dr. Daniel told you, he was the only one.
Yeah. Yeah. 5. That is ridiculous. And on the flip side of that, I'm sure there are a whole bunch of folks who want to become rappers and basketball players. And I have to say, becoming a basketball player, that ain't gonna happen. Becoming a rapper, only in your garage. So you have a better chance of becoming a brain surgeon. Do that instead. And it's really going to take all of us. And I got my medical degree from WGU, and I do as much as I can. Now, I want somebody to ask me, where is WGU? Dr. Noble, do you know WGU? Dr. Soon-to-be Robinson, do you know? Dr. Noble, what is it?
I forgot. I remember you mentioned where you got it from the streets.
Close. Dr. Dodson, what is WGU?
Yeah, you got me stumped there. I'm not too sure. You may have to educate us.
Okay, Dr. Harris, do you know? Oh, come on, you guys. Dr. Daniel, I know you know.
I'm thinking.
Guys, really?
I'll give you a hint. It's down the street on the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of the,
University.
You said what?
Walgreens University.
Oh, actually, that's exactly what I was, okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm singing your praises. I got my degree from WGU. Come on. We have to do better than that. We absolutely have to do better than that. And with Black men in white coats, this is the beginning. And maybe it isn't the beginning, but it is the beginning. We've got to change the narrative. We absolutely have to change the narrative. We're getting close to the end, and our engineer is going to be banging that drum telling us to hang up. So we are going to let everybody have a few seconds to give us your closing remarks. What would you like to say, Dr. Noble?
Well, again, thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure to be on here, especially be on here with my brothers, Dr. Daniel Okarudu and Black Men in White Coats, Dr. Harris, and soon to be Dr. Robinson, of course, Dr. Dodson. You know, we got us, and anytime that you see that we're only representing 2% of any sort of industry,
Absolutely.
or whether it's healthcare or medicine, we're going to suffer. And so to that point, we need more Black men in medicine. We need more Black men in education. And because at the end of the day, our children are our future. And when you sit up here and look at the rates, the number one killers of individuals Black men before the age of 45 being homicide and trauma and unintentional trauma, we got to address that. There's a crisis going on that because of COVID-19, we really can't address what's happening to our young brothers and sisters. And then when you get past the age of 45, the number one killers are heart disease and lung cancer, and right now, COVID-19. So as my barbershop or as my barber cousin told me this past weekend when we were sitting up here talking about the vaccine, he was liking COVID-19 to getting into a fight. And when you're in a fight, you don't want to get stolen on. You don't want to get sucker punched. And what happens with the vaccine, he says, is that the vaccine prevents you from getting stolen. So, you know, everybody go out there, you know, we're all in a fight. We're all going to be in a fight together, but you don't want to get stolen. Make sure you get the vaccine. Make sure you get vaccinated. Because if you do get COVID-19, because, hey, you still can get COVID-19, but you're not going to get stolen. You're still going to have that protection. You're still going to be able to fight it off, and you won't be as bad as if you were had you not been vaccinated. So be safe, mask up, social distance, and hand hygiene, and God bless everybody out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Harris.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always great to talk with other successful individuals, like-minded individuals. I would say in anything, the host is always the most important part. Prioritize your health, invest in yourself. You are worth it. If I always tell people, don't expect me to work miracles. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, there's nothing I can do for you. Now, if you're willing to prioritize nutrition, exercise, mindset, meditation, sleep, all of these things that keep us healthy, then the body can wonderfully and amazingly heal itself. So invest in yourself, prioritize your health, and wonderful things can happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Daniel O.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having us come on. I mean, what you're doing, what y'all are doing is just very, very amazing for the community. So thank y'all for what y'all are doing. And thank you to all my brothers here for what y'all are doing as well. And you know, for so many people who are invested in what we do and the Black Men in White Coats, I'm very grateful for that. You know, for the kids out there and for anybody out there, I just want them to know that that you can do it. Like, you know, if we say Black Men in White Coats, but Dale, my brother, always says, you know, your white coat is whatever, you know, whatever profession it is, whatever, you know, success that you're aiming for. That's your real white coat. It may not be medicine. You may be, you know, top executive or whatever it is that you find to be successful. That's what you need to shoot for. So many students, you know, reach out to us and they had already given up, or they thought there was that medicine wasn't something that was you know, something that they could ever attain. And I let them know that somebody has done it before. Somebody's done it before. And I can't tell you how many students I tell them, you know something, you should check out this podcast, you know, that we did on this medical doctor here right now, because he had the exact same story you had, but even maybe 10 times crazier or wilder. Like literally I had a student not too long ago tell me, you know, I was in jail, you know, I really messed up, and there's no way I'm ever gonna get to med school. And I told him, check out Dr. White's story on our podcast. You'll see what he went through, getting locked up and all this. And that's the cool thing about it, that we share our stories and we're free with it. We tell about our failures and that we're just like you. Some of us played basketball. There's some of us played in the NFL. Somebody did so many different things, but then our calling was medicine. So we went back there and we wanted to pour into our community and fix these issues. So we need you out there. So please join us and help out whichever way you can.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you very much. Dr. Dodson.
Yes, you guys, very quickly, my message is love what you do and do what you love. Follow your passion. And if you are interested in medicine and healthcare, reach out to us so that we can get you guys plugged in. And yeah, let's continue to change the face of the world.
Absolutely. And soon to be, Dr. Edward Robinson.
Yes, very briefly, I think the narrative is changing, you know, slowly. We're starting to see our superheroes as the people that we have in front of us today, that I consider my mentors and our mentors for colleagues of mine as well. So I think we should definitely start working alongside people that have larger platforms. I think that's fundamental to bring forth, you know, the message of expanding our numbers, especially in the medical field, as well as getting out, you know, truthful and information about vaccines, anything that you know surrounds science and medicine. So I think we're in a very good moment for activism, especially when it comes to medicine and science. And so I'm very glad to be part of this. And all I can say is that, you know, I hope that my colleagues can join me in this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we want to thank all of you for being a part of this, and thank you for being the beginning of It's Time to Tell the Truth. And be with us tomorrow. We will have Dr. Zarif, who is an Indian naturopathic doctor, who's going to tell the other side of medicine. But with our programming, we will also have It's Time to Tell the Truth next week and the following week. It's a 5-part series. So please join us. I know all of you are very busy, but this is very, very important. We will have great guests on, and we're doing a lot of grassroots talking. And this has got to happen. It's time to tell the truth. So thank you for joining us. It's been great as always with you doctors. Thank you so much. And we're behind you 1,000%. So thank you very much. Be safe going home, everybody. Anybody need to walk to their car? Have a good night. Take care, everybody. Be safe. I'm sure we will talk again. Wear your masks. Have a good night.